Hey guys, this is Roof aka Roof0Din here. This is my guide on Protection Warriors. Now, for a Protection Warrior, it is crucial that you stack Mastery and Stamina. Stamina because you get really high Vengeance, and in certain boss fights or just in casual heroics, it's really important to do your tank damage. It just helps out a lot because you can really be doing a lot of damage and it scales with only your Stamina. Mastery is also very important because it scales up with your block, and as a tank you want to try and get rid of all the damage you can coming in on you. So to have block, dodge and parry, getting rid of mitigation is the word, getting rid of all the attacks on you is very important because you take less damage and you're less to heal and stuff like that. Now that we know about Mastery and Stamina being your two top stats, let's move on to Parry and Dodge. Now you want to try and keep your parry a lot higher than your dodge for the simple reason of a glyph, which I'll get more into a minute, but trust me guys, you want to keep your parry higher than your dodge. Now let's move on to some other stats. You want to try and keep your hit at about 7.5% and your expertise at about 7.5% to 10%. The hard cap on expertise is 18%. You don't really need stats such as haste and crit. Haste doesn't actually benefit warriors in any way that I know of, apart from swinging fast, which isn't really much of a benefit as you could be doing more damage with your specs and stuff like that. And your crit doesn't really scale up too much as warriors crit anyway, and you have like stuff like Berserker Rage that increases your crit, stuff like that. So you don't really need to be stacking into that or gemming into that. You want to be reforging out of that if you can into more important things such as Mastery, Stamina and dodge and parry. Now let's move on to some talents. Now I chose double time over Juggernaut and Warbringer because you won't really be using Warbringer to stun any bosses, and Juggernaut you have to wait every 12 seconds, whereas double time you can use it on demand whenever you need. The tier 2 talents I chose Second Wind over Impending Victory and Enraged Regeneration, more or less because if you're hit down to less than 35%, you'll just regain your health 3% per second, which is quite a lot, and that does more healing than Impending Victory and Enraged Regeneration. Impending Victory is mainly just a higher victory rush, which you don't really need, and you won't really get that off boss kills if you're doing raids, but you might get it off of heroic runs, but it's not worth it compared to Second Wind. And Enraged Regeneration you can use it on demand, but it's a minute cooldown and it's 60 rage to use. It doesn't heal as much if you went down for say 10% just about to die. Second Wind will keep you up more than Enraged Regeneration or Impending Victory. Next on the list is the tier 3 talents, aka level 41s. Now I chose Disrupt and Shout purely because if you're pulling a group of mobs or a boss that can be interrupted, this is very useful as you can either interrupt the casting mobs so they come near to you, or you can interrupt the boss if you miss with your pummel. You should pick this over Piercing Howl and Staggering Shout because Piercing Howl is just a slow and Staggering Shout is just a snare if the target is pre-slowed. Now the tier 4 talents, the level 61s, these go into more complication, not with Blade Storm. You don't really want to have Blade Storm as a tank, between Shockwave and Dragon Draw. Shockwave you can stun your targets, but you won't be able to stun them in raids. You can stun trash and everything, but you won't be able to stun the bosses, whereas Dragon Draw you can be doing more threat and more damage towards your target, and if you have a group of mobs or anything, this will be perfect. And this also works well with Bloodbath, but we're not going to go spec into Bloodbath. You can, as it's a second random mechanism choice, but I'll get into that in just a second. Level 75 talents, we have Vigilance, Safeguard and Mass Spell Reflection. Safeguard is the best one to choose because you don't really have any mobs or bosses or anything really casting stuff at your other party members, and if you do it can easily be out healed, so that's why Mass Spell Reflection isn't really much of a good choice. Compared to Safeguard you can prevent damage towards a party or raid member, and this can be very useful in raids and heroic raids. As we found out over my guild, we have 4 warriors in our raid group, and Safeguard is a great choice to have because you can reduce some damage on a certain player if they're about to get KO'd or anything. You should also use Safeguard over Vigilance just because Vigilance is on a 2-minute cooldown, and you can also use Safeguard to actually run at your target and get around quicker. Next on this is Avatar, Bloodbath and Stormbolt. Avatar is completely useless for us tanks, Bloodbath can be used well with can be used nicely with Dragon's Roar, just because you can apply a dot onto all your targets, and Dragon's Roar will do that, but you can also do it with Thunderclap. My choice is Stormbolt, because it is either a stun for 3 seconds or high damage at a target, and that can be very useful on bosses for more damage, or on random trash or in heroics just to stun a target for a few more seconds. It can be very useful. Moving on to Glyphs. This is Glyph of Hold the Line. This is why we want more Parry and Dodge, because this improves your next revenge by 50% if you parry over your dodge. Next on our list is Glyph of Heavy Repercussions. This basically means whenever your shield block is active, your shield slam will do 50% more damage, and in heroics and some raid fights I like to have shield block up as much as I can, and this just puts more damage out of your vengeance and such. Our last glyph is Glyph of Death from Above. The third glyph can really be anything you want from the list. I prefer this one as I can use Heroic Leap more often, and it does actual damage to targets, and you can use it on pulls and stuff, along with Thunderclap as you pull, to get all the aggro slash threat onto you right away. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. This has been Roof, aka Roof0Din. This is my warrior Dorito. Expect the next one to be Hunters, after the Arms and Fury warrior one, and I also need to bring out my Protection Paladin one. That's about it. Like if you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more. I hope you found this guide useful, or my tips useful, or the way how I play my class and spec useful. A lot of useful. So I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.